So we're back again. We got 2 more to go through real quick here. And Bill and Stephen were gracious enough to bring out a couple of bottles that have not been released. They're barrel samples of the 2016 and 17. We're going to try the 16, but I want Stephen to talk a little bit about these wines that have not been released yet.
Yeah, they are both, as you say, barrel samples, drawn this morning straight from the barrel, and not having gone through the barrels to make the perfect little blend of the vintage or anything like that. This is a random barrel taken. And we may have a better barrel, we may have a lesser barrel, but you know, this is the pure stuff as you go in and just kind of taste it that way. The raw stuff, so to speak. As for the 16 itself, I think once again we're getting a nice spiciness that is characteristic of the wine and all. 2016 was a challenging year.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the wet years, and it was one for more difficult in ripening fruit fully, and just getting it in clean. And so it was a good year for everybody to learn how important it is to be diligent in your sorting and in your cleaning of the fruit and harvest and all that kind of thing, because it was one of the tougher years that I've experienced, as a matter of fact. So I think as a function of that year too, you'll see that this wine is a little lighter in color.
Yeah.
Partly due, in fact, because it was cloudy days like this a lot and a lot of rain, and you just don't get that color pigment development quite as rapidly at the end of ripening as you would in a drier, sunnier year.
Mm-hmm.
So we adjust the wines making and the picking and those kind of things to the vintage again, which in a climate like ours, in a region like ours, you have to be able to adjust. It's not by
definitely.
the book every year, and which I think is still one of the exciting things about it, though sometimes a little frustrating and challenging.
It can be scary.
It can be a little scary, but yeah, I think we're getting a nice wine out of this. Maybe not the deepest in color and those kind of things, but sometimes red wine color is a little overrated in my humble opinion. Really nice wines, red wines, can be made and consumed and enjoyed without having to be inky black. And I think this is an example of that, and something that we try to keep our own and everyone else's ideas on that open-minded, so to speak, about that. But anyway,
You still get that spicy.
Still there.
Still there, but how about the nose? You've been saying the last two, kind of that buttery, creamy. Are you getting that on this one?
I'm getting less on this. My nose. It's there, but I think it's less. But again, this, as Stephen was saying, this is a random barrel. So, and not to put too fine a point on this, there's a lot of barrel variability even with the same wine in a row of barrels. There's so many variables in this. It's hard to comprehend sometimes. So, before it gets bottled, it all gets combined.
Yes.
And so, this still has the spice. It still has, to my nose, a note of the black pepper, which is kind of signature for this wine, I think. So that's very reassuring, even because it was a tough year. It rained a lot in 16, and so far we're very pleased with what we were able to produce in such a tough year. So imagine what will happen when we have an easy year.
Something to look forward to this year, right?
2019, right?
Knock on wood.
No, it's going to be 19.
15
We're
was
counting
good.
on that. But
We're counting on 19.
You just seem to get more of a floral note, I feel.
Yes.
Well,
on these.
maybe floral. I was going to say
Rose, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say something like it's got a little more strong perfume to it.
Yeah.
Rose,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Which I think is nice. Very nice.
And we
People are gonna
try
like
to, we do try to, after we bottle, leave things in bottle for 6 to 8 months before release, if possible. A lot of times with Nero, because the demand is there, and it butts up to, the previous vintage running out, it does sometimes get released earlier, but we do really try to, because it does make a difference when it's been in bottle for 6 to 8 months.
And I know we've been doing the vertical here on the Nero, but tell us a little bit about the other bottles that you have here. You said you did a cab. Other reds include
Sangio, I think, and the Monte Pulciano. I think both of those are very happy here. They are And the Sanjo it gets a little too happy at times. A lot of hedging that goes on, but it makes a very solid wine. I think all of the years. I opened a bottle of 14 Sanjo not too long ago. I was like, wow, it's actually gotten better. And I think that's a very good indicator for red wines, certainly when they sit in bottle for a while, they're actually getting better over time. And I think with those three that I've mentioned, the Nero, the Monte, and the Sanjo, my humble experience, as those bottles sit for a while, they're actually getting better. And they're all slightly different. It's like this. You know, there'll be different notes and this and that. It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing with wine is that you get this. You know, we've gone through 5 before.
Same vines.
Right now, same vine, same grape. And you get to see the difference.
Absolutely.
By year. And it's, you know, I always talk to beer friends about it. And they're always like, well, how could it taste different? You know, a beer always tastes the same. And it's like, well, a beer has a recipe. And, you know, this kind of has a recipe, but it all depends on the weather, the soil, the grapes, you know, everything like that.
That's a very, I mean, you buy your hops, you buy your barley, you know.
Yeah.
You remove a lot of the variables out of this whole thing, honestly. The weather is immaterial in beer making, so no offense to my beer making colleagues, but there's a lot more.
As we know, it takes a lot of beer to make good wine.
But Stephen does. He tells us year to year. You know, don't expect what you got the previous year. There is no recipe. There is no like set thing you're going to get. So it's nice when we do see consistency in certain flavors. But it's interesting too, with depending on the weather and other things, the changes that from vintage to vintage you taste.